Welcome back, everybody, to the Always Bayern Chelsea show. We have some midweek matches to talk about European football in this one. Bayern Munich had a brilliant 5-1 victory over Shakhtar in the Champions League. Chelsea plays Astana, and Jim and I are on different schedules here, so we're recording this one separately, but if I can get any audio from Jim, I will add it in to this episode. So let me just start off here by talking about Bayern Munich's awesome 5-1 win in the Champions League against Shakhtar. And as things stand right now as I record this, this victory has catapulted Bayern into the top 8, so they will not have to play another match to advance to the next round here. But let's just see how things play out with the table with the rest of these matches before we get too ahead of ourselves. But I do want to talk about this match because it was a little bit of a weird one, but definitely a fun match as things played out. And I think a convincing victory like this is really what Bayern needed, and even more so than the scoreline. By the end of the match, the attack was really firing on all cylinders and looking creative and good again, which is something that we haven't seen for a little while here. So I'm going to start off by listing the starting lineup because, as you may know, if you're a Bayern Munich fan or if you've listened to the recent episodes of this podcast, Bayern Munich is struggling with injuries. I kind of joked about it a little bit on Twitter with the FC hospital and the, Bayern's injured 11 could form a pretty convincing starting 11 at this point. So in between the sticks for this one, we did see Daniel Peretz, and I thought Peretz did okay. I think that he did struggle with his distribution and his passing and his positioning often at times, but he made some really nice saves, and overall this was, I think, an important match for him to get some minutes in, especially if we're going to rely on him to be the backup goalkeeper as Neuer is out with at least one broken rib. So we'll see, I guess, a little bit more of him going forward here, but we saw Rafa Guerreiro at left back. Yes, that's right, Rafa Guerreiro, the man who can play every position under the sun, it seems, filling in for an injured Alphonso Davies. I thought Guerreiro did okay this match. He didn't do a whole lot, to be honest with you, but that might be okay. He didn't really make any mistakes that I can think of, or any horrible mistakes, but he didn't do a whole lot on the positive side either, so Guerreiro was just kind of there. We saw Upamecano and Kim Min-jae as the center backs once again, and I'm beginning to get worried that Vincent Kompany is falling into the Thomas Tuchel trap of last season, which was playing these two at center back every single match. And then at the end of the year, second half of the year, we saw injuries to these two. We saw many mistakes, and a lot of the mistakes I think were mental mistakes that are a little bit harder to quantify or to attribute to being worn down, but that type of thing happens when you play 90 minutes every match. So I'm gonna hope that Kompany starts to play Dyer a little bit, or maybe when Stanisic gets healthy, or Ito gets healthy, or even Bayern maybe sign somebody in January to play backup center back. But nonetheless, these two had an all right match, I thought. Not really a lot to trash him about. There was the first goal, we'll get into this, but there was some pretty poor positioning by Kim, I thought. And then, next is Konrad Laimer, who I actually thought had a really nice game. I mean, I don't know how many lungs this guy has, but it's more than two, because the way he hustles and the way he runs. I actually thought we would see Sacha Boey start at the right back spot, but it was nice to see Laimer there, and I think he has filled in nicely there as he is a midfielder, but maybe that's part of the reason why he struggles a little bit with his positioning sometimes, especially on that goal, but again, don't want to get ahead of myself. Midfield pivot was Leon Goretzka and Joshua Kimmich. Solid matches from both of these two. I don't think it was Kimmich's best match. I think he's been more involved in other matches, but didn't do anything wrong. Goretzka, I thought, had a really nice match. And again, here's a guy filling in for an injured Pavlovic and injured Polina. And honestly, Goretzka has had a string of some pretty nice matches. So, maybe we won't see as much of Goretzka and Laimer going forward, but hey, both of these guys had great matches, and I just want to give them both some credit and some shout-outs here because I was really pleased with what they've done, for a while filling in for injured players. The attack now was Leroy Sane at the left wing. Not his best match, I thought. Maybe we'll get into it a little bit. I just thought he struggled with finishing as he has been doing lately, and I've been one who's been clamoring to see him on that left wing. I guess we're going to see it a little bit more going forward because both Coman and Gnabry are injured, but I want to see him functioning on the left wing with this attack when they're all healthy, which they aren't, so who knows, we'll see. But we got Jamal Musiala at the 10. Great match from Musiala, and a brilliant, outstanding, epic match from Michael Olise at the right wing. Olise and Musiala I thought were the two best players on the day. And then also up top, playing the 9, but sort of a false 9, was Thomas Muller. Incredible match by Muller as well. Musiala, Olise, and Muller were a great attacking trio, and Sane did some good stuff too, so I don't want to leave him out. But let's start talking about this match now, because things did open up early when Shakhtar scored the first goal of the match in the 5th minute. And man, oh man, Kim was way out of position. Laimer was out of position as well. And it might have been a miscommunication, I'm not quite sure, but there was just an opening, and really nothing Peretz could have done to save that one either. By Kevin, I believe it was. Weird to say Kevin, but yeah, I believe he's Brazilian, and I think that's kind of how they do things sometimes. So yeah, Kevin scores that goal, and things were not looking good in the start for Bayern Munich. And I kind of started to think to myself, is this the back line that I saw last year with these big mistakes that just lead to goals? And the back line, like I said, last year made a lot of these mistakes. They did at the beginning of the year, this year as well. And then we saw a really solid stretch of play from them where they all looked solid. The center backs looked more solid than ever. And the last couple games, I've started to see some of these cracks in that system and some of these, mistakes that remind me of last year. So luckily that did not last long in this match, because in the 11th minute, Konrad Laimer, making up for a little bit of his positioning error on the goal that Shakhtar scored, scores a goal of his own, assisted by Michael Olise, and it actually started from a little play that Goretzka and Kimmich kind of put together. So I think it was a steal by Goretzka, and then a pass off to Kimmich. Kimmich passes it to Laimer maybe, who goes back to Olise. Olise kind of flicks it back to Laimer, but I'm not sure if Olise was actually trying to do that. It was kind of tough to tell. But anyways, Laimer barrels through the last defender and shoots it into the top of the net, a million miles per hour, impossible to save. Awesome that Connie got a goal there, because he's kind of been flirting with scoring a goal as that inverted right back these last couple matches. So great goal by him. Glad to see him get that goal. But after that, Bayern, I thought their attack after that looked a little bit uncreative again, because it was the same old story of, Bayern's dominating the match. They're owning possession. They're making a lot of chances, but they're just not finishing. And it was so frustrating for a while, because how many matches in a row can you go and think to yourself, we're dominating this match, but we have nothing to show for it. We're drawing to Shakhtar. That's nothing. All this possession means nothing if we can't be creative enough to put away this match. And credit to Shakhtar, they played a great match, I thought. They didn't just slink back and form a low block like we've seen a lot of teams do. They actually kind of went punch for punch for Bayern punch for punch with Bayern for a while. That was almost a self-induced tongue twister there. But, they looked strong. And now, sure, that couldn't last forever. And it didn't last forever. But it was a much more fun and interesting match to watch. And they actually could have really altered the trajectory of the match had they scored on one of their few chances, because when they would get chances, they were damn good chances. And that's the problem with the way Bayern plays. When they aren't putting things away and they aren't finishing, they're going to leave themselves vulnerable to other teams scoring. But, right before the end of the first half, we did see Thomas Muller, the hero of that first half, I would say, come in clutch, and I think it was the 45th minute there, put a goal in the back of the net, assisted by Jamal Musiala. Musiala did a lot of great work on that goal, but it was just a classic Thomas Muller goal. He's falling backwards as he's shooting, but he's in the right place in the right time, and he's kind of tumbling around in there and just slots it home. So, we go into halftime with a 2-1 lead. I was feeling like we could have and should have done more at that point, but to get that second goal, that was huge, and it was almost like a weight was kind of lifted off of our shoulders, off of my shoulders at least as a fan, because I thought that there was no looking back for Bayern Munich at that point. It didn't seem like Shakhtar was going to be able to keep up with them anymore, and that's kind of what happened in the second half. I never thought this match was in doubt, even when Bayern was 0-1 down. However, I was worried with how we were playing. I was worried that we weren't finishing, and I was worried that come bigger matches in the Champions League, even bigger matches in the Bundesliga, we weren't going to be able to win them, as we kind of haven't so far this season. So I was starting to feel worried about that. I wasn't necessarily worried about this match, but yeah, the link up with Jamal Musiala and Thomas Muller there was gorgeous, and Musiala was dropping way deeper throughout the first half to field passes from the center backs and from the back line. So, with Muller up top leading the press, not really being a striker, he did a great job of connecting the attack, and so did Musiala. That's what I'm getting at. Both of them together figured out how to work well together, and I really like Muller leading the press. He's great at that. That's one of his best attributes. And soon into the second half, we actually saw what was my moment of the match. Believe it or not, it wasn't one of the 5 goals. My moment of the match was a goal line clearance by Thomas Muller himself, because if Shakhtar gets that goal, they're right back into it. I think this completely altered the trajectory of the match as well. The way he was pumping his fists and screaming and just elevating the crowd and elevating the team. It was a beautiful, beautiful moment. But after that, we did see a couple of changes. Vincent Kompany went to his bench and pulled in Tell, took out Sane, and then also put in Sacha Boey and took out Guerrero. So we started to see some changes there, which I think is ultimately good, because with all these injuries, I don't want to risk any other starters getting injured, or even players that could provide depth to the team. I don't want them to get injured either. So it was good to see Kompany do that. I think he would have liked a more comfortable lead, and we would have seen changes happen sooner. I should mention that there was a goal that was disallowed. Jamal Musiala was wide open on a corner and scored a nice goal, whipped in by Kimmich, of course. But there was a call that I disagreed with. The call was that Tell was blocking the keeper, and I couldn't even tell what the call was at first. I thought it was maybe a phantom offside somewhere. Oh, was Musiala offside, or I don't know, was there some butting of heads as the corner was going off, But no, the call was Tell blocking the keeper, which didn't make sense at all. Tell's hands were behind his back. Maybe he whispered a little something sweet into the keeper's ears there that threw him off, but horrible call if you ask me. And not long after, we did see a penalty get called. Sacha Boey went down in the box as he was shooting, kind of got kicked in the ankle, but to me it kind of seemed like his momentum was carrying him into the defender anyways, and it was just a soft call. If you ask me, hey, I'm not getting paid to be a ref, but I thought that was a soft call. So maybe it evens out Musiala's disallowed goal, is what I'm getting at. Who knows? Either way, Michael Olise steps up to the spot in the absence of Harry Kane and buries a nice pen. The keeper jumped the right way, and it didn't matter. Olise slotted it in the perfect spot. And at that point, I think we have another collective sigh of relief, because it's 3-1, and you know that there's no coming back from Shakhtar. That goal was in the 70th minute, and like I said, this game was put to bed at that point. But Bayern was still hungry, and that is a beautiful thing. That's what you need out of a team if you're going to want to win the Champions League, I think. You have to be hungry all the time. You can't go to sleep even for a minute, in this sport. So the 87th minute then, we saw Jamal Musiala get a goal for real this time. It wasn't disallowed, and that goal was the icing on the cake. Before that, we saw Jamal Musiala go down in the box, and it could have been a penalty, maybe should have been a penalty. I thought it was live, but I didn't get to see it close up, so I really can't comment on that one in full. Thought it was a penalty. Musiala thought it was a penalty, and he stayed down for a while. But nonetheless, it actually put him into a perfect position to score this goal, which was kind of funny. It's hard to explain, but by the time he stood up, he was right around the penalty marker and getting fed a ball on a platter to put into the goal. So Musiala gets a goal, a well-deserved goal. He had a great match throughout, and like I said, should have had a goal earlier. So 4-1 at that point. But it's still not over. Vincent Kompany goes to his bench once again, brings some guys in the 88th minute. Great strategy. You don't want to get anybody else injured. And you want to get some of these guys some minutes too, because you have Ibrahimovic and Asnu, who are youngsters. Get them some minutes, even if it's just a few minutes, garbage time. But it's Champions League minutes. So these guys come in. Eric Dyer comes in as well, which I think was good because, like I said, these center backs are getting worn to the ground. You got to see what you have in Dyer in this Kompany system. You saw what you had in him under Thomas Tuchel, and it was great. I get the Kompany probably doesn't think he can play that sort of a high line with the pace of someone like Upa and Kim, but hey, you got to start to throw Dyer in here and there. That's still not how the match ended, because in stoppage time, the 93rd minute, we saw a goal from Michael Olise, a hilarious goal, one of the funniest goals I've seen all season. He just dribbled through 5, 6, 7 defenders and basically just dribbled the ball into the net. I mean, he even made the keeper whiff. It was just a funny goal. I get it. It's the 93rd minute. You're already up 4-1, and Shakhtar is tired and kind of turned off at that point, but it was just funny and great, and it was a perfect moment to cap off a very, very strong performance by Michael Olise, another Champions League brace, and at this point, I think he is well above the other three wingers that the team has. I think Olise should start all the big matches at right wing. I still do think Sane's a little bit better than Coman and Gnabry, but hey, those two are injured now, and they're often injured, so we're going to see what happens with this winger situation. I'm now of the mind that I think Bayern Munich needs to get Florian Wirtz in the summer. I wanted him, of course. Why would you not want him if you're a Bayern fan? He's one of the most exciting young talents in the world, but I'm now shifting in the direction of they need him. Maybe that's a conversation for another day, but the way that he would elevate this attack, Wirtz, Musiala, Olise, Kane, that's not even to mention Kimmich, Pavlovic, and all the rest. This team would be, on paper, one of the best teams in the world, maybe the best team in the world. You look at what that attack would be in particular, and man, oh man, would it be an attacking group that could make deep runs into Europe year after year. So I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, but just something I'm thinking about. Now, looking at the rest of the squad and trying to think about if there's anything else to say, I think that Tell had an all right match. It's tough because he is being constantly thrown in as a winger, not really his natural position. He's actually a striker. He can play more than a striker, I think, but I don't think he functions best as wide as Bayern's wingers play. He operates better in that half space, which is occupied by Musiala and the fullbacks inverting. So you see Guerrero and Laimer and Boué in those half spaces. That's where Tell operates best. So it's frustrating to see him out on the wing that far. Bayern's wingers basically play on the sidelines. So it's a little bit frustrating that he's not doing what I think he can do best. But, I'm willing to give this kid more time. I've talked about him a lot. I think he's a great, great player. It's a bummer that he's kind of an afterthought this season so far, but he's got time to develop, and with all these injuries, we're going to be needing him more and more. So interested to see what he will do. I don't think he had a bad game by any means. I don't want to portray that. I think he did some very good things off the ball and in build-up. But let's go ahead and give out some match awards for this one. My man of the match is Michael Olise. My Robin of the match is Jamal Musiala. My underrated fireball, Thomas Muller, of course. The Thomas Muller kit for this season is something that I gladly sport. My defender of the match was Konrad Laimer. I talked about it before, but how many lungs can one man have? Great match from Laimer, I thought. And yeah, I think that's where I want to wrap up this match. Now Bayern Munich faces Mainz in the Bundesliga. Probably still going to be an ad hoc squad with the injured players healing up. I hope that Harry Kane is going to be back for Leipzig. That's the next Bundesliga match after Mainz. But a lot of these guys are going to be out for the calendar year. So let's just get to the little winter break here. Start the second half strong, hopefully healthy. And let's pick up 2 more wins in the Bundesliga and keep our death grip on top of the table. See how the Champions League plays out and set ourselves up for success going forward.
Champions League football is a beautiful thing. The game of football is the beautiful game, and Bayern Munich easily take care of Shakhtar Donetsk. I said that so wrong. I think I threw an X in that word, and there is no X, but you got to feel for this team that gets dismantled by Bayern because they're unable to play in their home country of Ukraine, as they're unfortunately going through a very tough time right now, battling war with Russia. But on this day, it was Bayern's day, and it was Jamal Musiala's day. Jamal Musiala is a player that I've discovered is one of my favorite to watch in the world. This German man is brilliant in the way he moves and dribbles the ball, in the way that he finds his teammates so effectively and so precisely. He's getting a lot better with his ball striking as well. I suspect that Musiala, who's already one of the best young players in the world, and probably a top 25, 15 player in general in the world, will be up on the Ballon d'Or lists in short order. We've talked about how he's probably been Bayern's most important player on the season. You could argue Harry Kane, who's injured right now. But Musiala is so special. This entire match against Shakhtar, right from the start, even when Bayern are struggling a little bit to put the ball in the back of the net, Musiala is finding ways to dribble around defenders, make guys look silly. And it's such a joy to watch. It's so beautiful. It's part of the game where you can just focus on him and find great resolve and joy in watching the sport of football. And that's a rare thing. Sometimes you watch games where some of the players are average or just have speed or power or can shoot great. Maybe there's some good passing and it's a solid team, but on this day, Bayern as a team was moving the ball effectively throughout, but Musiala really stood out to me. And I think it's so key for Bayern to have a match like this because, the match was played in Germany. It was technically an away match. They had good fan support as it's in their own country, but they played so well, so effective. I have nothing bad to say about this Bayern performance. They did give up a goal in that 5th minute early, but after that, it was all Bayern. Even before that, it was all Bayern. And really, that goal is a special goal from Shakhtar. Kevin, who's able to make a great run in the open space there, and maybe Laimer let him have some of that open space, but I just think it's a really great counterattack by Shakhtar. Whoever passed it to Kevin made a brilliant pass, and then he slots it in nicely past Peretz, who really didn't have an opportunity of saving that. So great goal there. And then Bayern are able to put on a display for the rest of the match where they didn't really give Shakhtar much of an opportunity for any comebacks. Laimer puts in that first for Bayern. Nice effective goal, slotting that in. And that's really all that happened in the first half, leading up to Muller's in the 45th minute, which was a mistake by Shakhtar, but good pressing by Sane, and Musiala finds Muller for the goal. And Bayern had many opportunities after that, and ended up getting 3 more in the second half. But I really just wanted to make this about Jamal Musiala because he's a player that I'm finding myself falling in love with a little bit just because of the way he moves across the pitch. I don't know if it's the way his body is kind of tall and lean and he looks so silky smooth. I mean, Olise has some of that too, and he as well had a brilliant game. Between Michael Olise and Jamal Musiala, they're both brilliant and similar in a certain sense in the way that they play. I think Musiala is a little bit better of a dribbler. Olise is better at crossing the ball in, but in this game particularly, they both used dribbling and effective passing in tight areas to their advantage. So Musiala eventually gets a goal in the 87th minute after kind of being down, pining for a pen, but nonetheless, he slots it in. Great striking ability, even from close range there. Olise, who had a pen in the 70th minute, maybe questionable, but clean, effective, precise penalty technique there from Michael Olise. Of course, the former Crystal Palace Screaming Eagle. And Olise adds another in the 93rd minute in a move that I'll watch continuously over the next week or so because he dribbles his way from deep on the right side all the way through the Shakhtar defenders, even all the way past the goalie, because he essentially dribbles the ball in the back of the net, and you rarely see that. A one-man play like that was a beautiful thing to see. And him and Musiala were doing that all day. So really the effectiveness of them together was a sight to see. As I mentioned, this Bayern team, don't have anything bad to say about them. Their defenders were solid. They really were doing well in midfield. There was no other standouts, I don't think, on the day in terms of players, because I think Olise and Musiala really did so well together, and nobody else was bad. So overall, it just created a really effective and efficient team performance. So shout out to Bayern, Mia San Mia, for that performance. Hopefully they can keep up this momentum because I think Vincent Kompany is looking for his team to start really playing well. I think they have a great opportunity again this weekend against Mainz to keep up that great play. And then they're going to have a huge, huge match back home at the Allianz Arena on the 20th of December against RB Leipzig. So that's a Friday match. That'll be a huge one to look forward to, and I'm sure we'll preview that in the coming days ahead. But overall, just a great performance by the boys in Munich. And I couldn't be happier for them and for my dear friend, Danny.
All right, so now I just want to hop on here briefly and talk about Chelsea's 3-1 victory over Astana in the Conference League. But I'll let Jim take the reins for most of this one if he's able to send me any audio. But I did catch the match today, and, it was a kind of a classic Conference League match in which Chelsea's B team, you could call them, dominated most of the match in terms of possession and just the flow of the match. But it was a little bit of a weird, chilly, freezing cold, by the looks of it, match today. So it wasn't maybe as clean or as fluid as you'd like. The pitch looked like it was in pretty rough condition, but Chelsea did open things up in the 14th minute with a goal from Marc Guiu, assisted by Pedro Neto. And that was a great individual moment by Guiu, I thought, which was great for him. I also think he needed this as, there's a lot of players in Chelsea's attack who are kind of stepping up to the plate. And Guiu hasn't been one of them so far this year, but it was overall a great match from him. He was one of the most important players on this Chelsea team today. We got another goal in the 18th minute. I think it was credited as an own goal, but Guiu kind of celebrated it, so I don't know, maybe it was a goal for Guiu, giving him a brace, but it was also mostly done by Pedro Neto, who put a beautiful ball in to the box there for Guiu. Again, I think the final touch was off of a defender, but either way, that Guiu and Neto link up in the attack for Chelsea today was really firing in the first half. And to be honest with you, Pedro Neto looked like the best player on the pitch by far. He was controlling much of the match just himself, making runs and making passes and shots. So, he was kind of, I guess I don't want to say punching down, but he was maybe in a league above a lot of these players on the pitch today. So Neto, I believe, is suspended for the next EPL game, maybe due to yellow card accumulation, I want to say. But either way, he won't be playing in that one, so that's why he made the trip to play in this Conference League match. So yeah, the only other thing I want to mention about that first half is, like I said, Chelsea was dominating possession, but they were also dominating winning the ball back. They were very fast at winning the ball back once they lost it, which is always a good sign. And the only maybe thing I noticed in the first half that wasn't so great for Chelsea is there were a few times where I thought they were offside very unnecessarily, which is kind of just a mental thing, but maybe the conditions also played a part in that. I wouldn't say I'm worried about that for Chelsea going forward, just something I wanted to note. But yeah, we saw in the 39th minute Chelsea's third goal, which was by Vega, assisted by Dewsbury Hall because it was off of a corner, and it was basically a free header. Again, good by Vega to put that in the back of the net, but basically a free header there, a free goal. And then Astana scored in the 45th minute, which was pretty much just an awesome cracking strike by them. Nothing that Jorgensen could really do to save it there. But again, that's kind of how the match ended, 1-3. The second half was boring. I thought Neto went out, so Chelsea's attack was a little bit handcuffed, I guess. They didn't look like they did in the first half, and it was also better from Astana. Astana played a little bit better in the second half. So my match awards, I thought Pedro Neto was the man of the match just because I thought he was the best man on the pitch. Like I said, I'm giving the Robin to Guiu. Overall, a great match from him. Like I said, one that he needed. I'm actually giving the underrated player of the match to George. I didn't talk about him at all in this brief match review, but I thought he should have had at least one assist. But overall was just a contributing member to Chelsea's attack and their progression of the ball. He did some nice things, so that was good to see and encouraging from another youngster. The defender of the match, I'm giving to Vega. He kind of operated more in the midfield and in the attack for this match as opposed to the defense, but I'm giving him that award because he was one of the best players on the pitch overall as well in this one. I didn't write down a moment of the match for this, but I guess I would probably say the own goal, just because even though it was only 2-0 at that point, the match was pretty much closed in my mind. But yeah, I will turn it over to Jim now and see if he has anything to add.
Chelsea 3, Astana 1 in a match where every player on the pitch was freezing their butts off. Negative degrees Celsius for the players, as they would know it as an American here. I knew it as around 10 to 20 degrees Fahrenheit. What a cold day. You could see the cold air coming out of their mouths while they were breathing. And to the Chelsea fans that went to this match in Kazakhstan, in Almaty, Kazakhstan, I praise you. I applaud you. It is so impressive. The support is unreal that this team has worldwide and in England. It's awesome to see that Blues fans are everywhere. And Chelsea gave those fans a nice, hard-fought win by mostly academy products. This starting lineup was a mix of kind of B-team players, plus Pedro Neto, plus academy boys. Awesome to see the mix of all those guys so we could rest our key players while also getting some guys some key minutes and some players some first-team debuts. Don't have a ton to say about this one, really. Everybody played pretty solid for the most part. Nobody had a bad day out there on the pitch. The forward line of Tyreek George, Mark Guiu, Pedro Neto, and Carney Chukwuemeka, they all had their moments. I thought Neto was the best player on the pitch, as he should have been, really being the first-team Chelsea player, as he will be suspended for Sunday's match against Brentford. Mark Guiu bags a couple goals. SofaScore still has it marked as an own goal, but as far as I know, UEFA did give him that second goal. So for him to get a brace was just awesome. And his first goal, the individual display of talent that he showed, was quite something. I mean, I was watching at work on my phone, but that display was incredible from him, something I didn't expect from him. So, man, was I fired up for him. I thought Tyreek George was solid. He's not necessarily flashy, but makes a lot of great plays. Should have had at least one assist. Carney was all right in that number 10 role. And really the midfield of kind of Vega, Saki, and Dewsbury Hall were solid as well. I think Dewsbury Hall, he does get an assist off a corner where Vega really puts in a nice header, a free header off a corner. But Dewsbury Hall, he hasn't done enough for me so far this year. Hasn't gotten a ton of time, but I think he just isn't finding his role in this team. I expect him to leave at some point, whether it's January or in the summer. Vega, man, this guy's awesome. He's a great backup as a left back to Cucurella, but he can play left center back. He can play in this kind of hybrid midfield role, defensive CDM role. And Saki really put in some nice minutes as well. The back line, Disasi, Tosin, Achimpong, Jorgensen. Tosin and Josh Achimpong were probably the two best out of those four there. And for Josh to be nearing this time where he's finally signing that contract with Chelsea, he's 18 years old. With Reece being hurt, Gusto is inconsistent at times and a little injury prone as well. He's got an opportunity to really shine here. And I think he showed that he's got a lot of potential for this Chelsea side. And it's not surprising considering teams such as Real Madrid were calling for his services. So super excited for him that he finally gets his first start in the Chelsea first team. And then we had a few guys come off the bench as well. Ampa makes his debut. Harvey Vale, not his debut, but good for him to get some minutes. I think we'll probably see him leave Chelsea for good, if not on loan here in January. Shim Mweka, man, 17 years old. The things he showed for a little bit there in this game against Astana, he's obviously not quite ready yet, but exciting talent. The fact that we have guys in the academy that are that exciting and we have the talent we already do, it's so fun to be a Chelsea fan right now. And then Keanu Dyer gets in for a little bit as well. So good for these guys to get their debuts. Man, just a fun day. I knew going in it was going to be fun to watch the young boys. They do allow a goal, but it was really a really nice goal by Astana and Tomasov curling one in. So nothing to complain about there, but just really happy for this Chelsea team. Really happy that they're building momentum. Maresca has shown that everybody's buying into his system, and they're really doing so well. And I cannot say enough how exciting this team is. They are the most fun team to watch, I think, in the world right now. Let's hope they can continue it on Sunday, a later game as they're getting back from pretty far in Eastern Europe and Asia. So going to be exciting things to look for ahead as they are back at the Bridge on Sunday against the Brentford Bees, and they will not be buzzing. They will not be buzzing because Chelsea are going to win this match. I think they're going to win 4-2. I just think both these teams are scoring so much right now and playing so well. And Chelsea like to give up a few goals. So look for that one. Look for Palmer to have a massive day. I think Nico bags one as well. But, man, I'm just having fun here. I'm just having fun up at Chelsea.